I was so frustrated. We'd been in our house less than 2 weeks, and the kitchen faucet was driving me nuts. You pull down the handle, and the water would come on and then shut off. Or it wouldn't come on until you twisted the handle just a little this way, and then a little that way, a little up, and then a little down. It was so unpredictable that when I did the dishes that first week, I just left the water running because if you turn it off, there's no chance it was going to come back on. I just left it running so I didn't lose my mind. And then I started to get angry. At the previous owner who had to have known that the kitchen sink, which is the central feature of the kitchen there, wasn't working. And they never even mentioned it. They didn't say, oh, hey, by the way, you're going to want to get that fixed. Nope, not a word. Day after day, I was losing my mind until finally I had had enough. And I went online and I ordered a new kitchen faucet. It arrived a couple days later, and I scheduled a plumber to come and install my sanity and peace of mind once again. But the plumber couldn't come right away, so I had to live with this faulty faucet. But I consoled myself with better days are coming, keep your calm. And then yesterday, I was getting ready to do the dishes, and I just playfully tapped the old faucet, that silly thing, with my hand, and it turned on all by itself. and then I touched it again, and it turned off. Well, that's weird. So I touched it again and touched it again, and on and off without fail. It worked beautifully and perfectly. And then I realized, oh, it's a touch-sensitive sink. The handle, which I thought was for turning the water on and off, was actually just there to adjust the volume and the temperature. Oh yeah, I felt very foolish, but also delighted because it works now. And thank heaven. All of my resentment toward the previous owner, all of my frustration in working with a supposedly faulty sink were misplaced because I just didn't know how it worked. Come to find out, I was the problem. Foolish, ignorant, uninformed. The faucet worked perfectly as designed, and once I got into sync with the sink, life worked much better. Now, I shared my story with you so you can laugh with me, not at me, and to also consider how much of our lives are frustrating, and we're resentful and we're angry against other people because we just don't know how things work, especially when it comes to our life with God. Maybe we've been pulling on the handle of prayer and frustrated by its sporadic results. And come to find out, prayer's not a handle that turns things on or off, but adjusts the flow and the temperature. I know it's not a perfect illustration, but hopefully you get the idea that unless you know how God has designed His world to work, life with Him can be very frustrating. That's why St. Paul wrote in Galatians chapter 5, verse 25, "Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit." Being in the Spirit, or being in step with the Spirit, means that you have learned what God wants, and then, by grace, you're doing it. It's that first step of learning how it works that is so important. You can't just assume you know, or go with what you think it ought to be, and nope. How has God designed your life to work? That is the key question. One of the first prayers that I lift up in the morning is that I would be in step with the Spirit, attuned by Him, so that what I'm doing and how I am doing it would be led by the Spirit, so that my words and actions are gracious and loving and do not get in the way of what God wants done in this day. Attuned and in step so that I hallow the Father's name, bring glory to Jesus and don't grieve the Spirit. But rather, living in the Spirit, His fruit is grown, where love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control are lived out. Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing you all this weekend in worship. And just a little reminder, I mentioned this last week, that I will be preaching this coming weekend on a very interesting topic, at least I feel it is, on answering the question, where did evil come from? See you all this weekend.